Vasaraghavacharya Vidya Avapya Vibudhottamatam Dadhanam Kurve Sada Hridi Gurum Karuna Karakhyam Lakshminatha Samarambham Nathayamuna Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Yo Nityamachyuta Padambuja Yugma Rukma Vyamohatasta Ditarani Trunaya Mene Asmadguror Bhagavatosya Dayaika Sindho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadye Shriman Venkatanathāryah Kavitarkika Kesari Vedantacharya Varyo Me Sannidhattam Sada Hridi. A very quick recap of what was covered. We saw about Kaivalya, its definitions as per Advaita and its definition as per Vishishtadvaitha. We also saw that the word has a number of different meanings. In different contexts, the word comes even in Buddhist scriptures as a matter of fact. So different people have defined it differently. So the core teaching here is, when we look at a word, we should not immediately jump to the conclusion that different people have different opinions on the concept. It could be that different people are actually talking about different concepts when using the same word. This was the lesson that was learned there. And moksha's superiority over Kaivalya, as per the definition given in Vishishtadvaitha, was also looked at. Then in the previous class, we saw about the level of freedom that is possessed by the jivas. We have a limited amount of freedom. Karma that we do is sometimes decided by past karma itself, and sometimes it is decided by ourselves at present. As an example, if there is a parrot that grows in the house of a butcher, the parrot might use words like kill, cut, and so on. But if a parrot grows at the ashram of a sage or a saint, then it might say very sweet things, or it might recite some divine hymns also. So, to some extent, the place where we are born, the community, the kind of people we are associated with, the people who influence us in life, the kind of difficulties we face due to our past karma, all of these shape our character, and all of these shape our karma. As a result of that, whatever is done by us has to be sometimes inferred as being a result of past karma, where we know that all of these have already happened and these are leading us to do it. We don't really have a big control over what we are doing. It could be a case. Like, for example, if a baby is born to two parents who are terrorists, the parents, being terrorists in a terrorist land, would probably bring up the child as a terrorist. That the child does not have a choice there. It might end up thinking, as the child grows, the child might end up thinking that terrorism is fine. It is a possibility. So, some amount of influence is there of past karma. But some amount of free will is also there. If we want to be good, if we realize that something is good, and we want to be good, and we are taking genuine efforts towards it, there it is possible. Whether we succeed or we do not succeed is going to depend on our past karma. But the fact that we are taking effort, we are at least trying to be good, we are trying to do good things to the world, those things, right? Just trying, taking the effort to whatever extent possible, that is within our freedom. So, whatever they call as kriyamana karma, the karma that is done by us, that we have to ensure that it is of the best quality. What about the other karma? The past karma, which is divided into prarabdha karma and sanchita karma. We cannot go back and change what we have done. So, they are going to influence us. We have to understand that much. We talked about the level of freedom in great detail, but I am restricting it to the concept of karma at this point of time because this needs to be understood. Now, we are moving back to Tirumalizai Alvar. So, as we saw before, the Alvar had a famous incident with a king, correct? The Alvar's Shishya was insulted by the king, and Bhagavan himself left the place. Bhagavan himself left the place. The place lost Bhagavat Kataksha, that is the blessings of Bhagavan. And the king, coming to realize what has happened, he traveled all the way and apologized. He traveled all the way to find the Alvar and his Shishya, who were in turn followed by Bhagavan, that is Bhagavat Kataksha. The king apologized. This specific incident with the king that happened, it left a profound impact on the treatment of Bhagavatas. Why? Because people who study the story, what do they realize? What is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is that Bhagavan is there. Yes, Bhagavan is great. The king is there. He is also great. Why is Bhagavan great? We say he rules the entire universe. Why is the king great? He rules the entire country. But what does the Bhagavata rule? Is there anything that the Bhagavata rules over? The answer to this question is that the Bhagavata rules over the heart of Bhagavan. Bhagavata wins the heart of Bhagavan. He pleases Bhagavan. And for that reason, Bhagavatas are to be treated with utmost respect. As a matter of fact, the Puranas teach us that Bhagavatas have to be treated with utmost respect, and that an insult to a Bhagavata is going to give you far worse consequences than an insult to even Bhagavan. This is stated in scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, and the story of the Alvar is an example of that very statement in the scriptures. This specific incident, right? It is whatever it teaches about Bhagavata Lakshana and Bhagavata Apachara and so on. This concept is not, although it is extremely popular in Vaishnavism, it is not restricted to Vaishnavism. So exists in a few other schools of philosophy. Also, at the same point of time, we should remember that this story is accepted as authentic by a number of others as well. So, this incident that the Alvar with the king, it has been, I have mistyped the spelling of Arunagirinathar. It is Natha, it should be. So, Arunagirinatha, a very great Shaiva, has praised this incident. Likewise, Kumaragurupara, who is a person of Kaumara tradition, who worshipped Kartikeya. Kumaran in Tamil is often used to refer to Skanda, that is Kartikeya. Murugan is another word popularly used in Tamil for him. So, of course, in the story of Arunagirinatha also, there is a part played by Murugan. But anyway, what we are looking at right now is that these two people, despite not traditionally being Vaishnavas themselves, have spoken about this incident. Why? Because it is teaching us a very great story. It is teaching us about Bhagavatas. Some things are realized by pratyaksha. You look at something and you know it. Correct? I look at, let us say, fire in front of me, and I see that it has a color, some reddish yellow color, whatever it is called. So I infer that this is the color of fire by looking at the fire. By touching the fire, I come to know, or by going near the fire, I come to know that fire is hot. So if I touch the fire, I have a direct experience of the heat of the fire. Suppose I move closer and closer to the fire. I very slowly move my hand closer and closer to the fire. I would feel an increasing level of heat. Then what do I infer? Even without touching the fire, I would infer that the fire is hot. Now, in both of these cases, one where I have really touched fire and my hand starts burning, I immediately take it back and I wash it with water or whatever. The second case, where I very slowly move my hand towards it and I calculate, okay, as my hand goes closer and closer, it gets hotter and hotter. Therefore, when my hand touches fire, it should be the hottest. Therefore, fire is extremely hot. So, what we are discussing right now are two different things. One is direct perception, which is called pratyaksha, where I directly touch something or look at something and infer. The second is logical interpretation, where I try to do something and I analyze, okay, I have got this much information. Based on this information, I estimate or I predict or I expect something to be of a particular kind. So based on my understanding of how hotter it becomes as I go closer towards the fire, I expect the fire to be a very hot entity. So that is logical interpretation. Of course, there is a third one called scripture itself. Under logical interpretation, there are many types. I believe this has already been discussed several classes back. So when the Advaiti says that there are 6 types of pramanas, out of the 6 types of pramanas told by the Advaiti, one is pratyaksha, that is direct experimentation, direct perception. One is scripture. What about all the others? All the others fall under logical interpretation. Now, in the school of Vishishtadvaitha, we say there are 3 pramanas only. Pramana being the basis for belief. Why? Because all of those different types of logical reasoning, we club them and say whatever counts as valid logical reasoning will be called as anumana. So the definition of the word anumana is also different between Advaita and Vishishtadvaita. There is a level of difference there. So in Vishishtadvaita, there are 3 things. One is you look at something and or you feel something. You really directly experiment and perceive. The second is where you apply logical reasoning. The third is where you refer to scripture. You refer to an authentic record. You refer to the Vedas. Why? Because they tell you things that you cannot find out otherwise. I look at the sky, I cannot see Indra Loka, Chandra Loka, anything. That only the scripture has to tell me. So, these are accepted as valid means of accepting facts. Why are we talking about this right now? Let us take the case of a Bhagavata. When you look at a Bhagavata, what would you see? You would see that the person is very traditional, very religious. That is all. If you observe further and start applying logical reasoning, you might end up concluding that the person is generally a calm person. The person is generally a very dharmic person. The person, I'm using the word generally because even Yudhishthira, who is praised for his level of dharma in Mahabharata, did commit crimes. To some extent, we are bound by karma, reminding you of that. So the Bhagavata does not mean perfect man. We should remember that. Because Sita has said, na kaschin na paradhyati. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is a complete non-sinner. The only perfect beings, if you want, they will be Nityas, Muktas, and Bhagavan. Here, we do not have such people. So, how do we understand this statement? We understand it as Bhagavata being logically understood as a person who would tend towards having a great character. Why? Because a Bhagavata would try to follow scripture. Now, if we don't even understand scripture and we misinterpret it, we might think, oh, he is a religious fanatic. He is just a blind faith follower. He has no brain. He is probably going to blindly do all the wrong things taught by scripture. In this manner, we might conclude that is going to be our own ignorance. But if we know what scripture really says, if we know to appreciate it, then given that we know what scripture is, and given that we see him trying to follow it, we conclude that the Bhagavata is indeed of a good character. That is how we should do. And once we conclude that way, we should also try to follow. We should give respect to the Bhagavata, of course, but we should also try to inculcate the good practices. All of that come naturally. They are again logically established that we should also try to become better ourselves. Now, scriptures have also talked about the greatness of Bhagavatas. Logical reasoning performed in an unbiased manner would also show the greatness of Bhagavatas. Even for a person who does not believe in the scripture, it is possible to make that person understand that Bhagavatas are people who have a very good character. So they would still be respected. So this greatness of Bhagavata is what is explained by this story. And for that reason, the way in which it has been explained and the fact that it is coming from authentic sources, authentic and ancient sources, it has been cited by others as well. Now, we will move on to a peculiar incident that is said to have happened between the Alvar, that is Tirumarisai Alvar. We are talking about the fourth Alvar. We have been talking about him all this while. This Tirumarisai Alvar, who is called Bhargaviya in Divya Suri Charita, once he was seen by Shiva and Parvati. Now it is to be noted that most of the times, whenever Shiva traveled anywhere, Parvati was with him. There are times when Parvati was not physically with him. For instance, when Shiva and Parvati had a discussion about Daksha Yajna, and Parvati went to attend it. But anyway, in this case, Shiva was traveling along with Parvati. He saw the Alvar. What is the Alvar doing? The Alvar is full of bhakti towards Vishnu. He is praying to Bhagavan with utmost devotion. Whatever he does overflows with devotion towards Bhagavan. Shiva was extremely pleased by looking at what Tirumarisai Alvar is doing. He was so pleased, he thought, okay, let us do one thing. Oh Parvati, let the two of us go to him. Let us give him a boon. I am very pleased with his behavior. The two of them descended. The Alvar saw both of them, but he ignored them and he continued whatever he was doing. After some time, Shiva approached him. It was clear that the Alvar had identified Shiva correctly and Parvati correctly. The Alvar has spiritual powers. We already saw in the beginning of it, the stories about him. As per Divya Suri Charita, we saw stories of how he behaved with another uh, person, a person of Shaiva tradition who was flying in the air. We saw about all of that. So this there was a competition between him and the Alvar won it. We saw all of that. So the Alvar realized that it is Shiva and Parvati and yet did not pay respects. Shiva is supposed to be Sarvajna. He is called as Isha by everybody. He is supposed to be a very great being. How could you ignore such a being? Even if an elder comes in front of you, you are supposed to pay respects. But when the great Shiva himself comes in front of you, would you still ignore him? That too, he is coming. Shiva is Paramakarunika, right? The Alvar did not pray to Shiva. He was praying to Vishnu. But Shiva still got pleased and came there. And yet the Alvar is ignoring him. What is really going on? This is to be understood as yet another reminder to us about the nature of Bhagavatas. They are always engrossed in what they do and they indulge in focused worship. Focused worship. So the Alvar was focused in worship of Vishnu. He saw Shiva. He did not mind. He thought, okay, Shiva has come here. Let it be. Now, Shiva talks to him. Shiva asks, why are you ignoring me? I have come here to only give you a boon. I saw what I would like to give you a boon. The Alvar said, I have nothing to get from you. I am busy in Vishnu Bhakti. I have nothing to get from you. I don't want any boon. If you really think that you want to give me something, then you should be able to give me that. If I desire moksha, will you be able to grant me moksha? The Alvar is asking Shiva. The Alvar asks Shiva, will you be able to grant me moksha? But we already know, as stated by the Vedas, as stated by Vishnu Purana, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, as stated by even the Puranas that are called Tamasa Puranas, the Puranas that glorify Shiva as the Supreme. Even there it has been said that it is Vishnu who grants moksha. So what does Shiva say? Shiva says, you are a Vishnu Bhakta, you are a Parama Bhagavata, and you are a great scholar. You are supposed to be aware that moksha is granted by Vishnu. So the Alvar says, okay, fine. I will ask you another question. Suppose it is time for a person to die. Suppose suppose it is time for a person to die. Would it be possible for you, O Shiva, to extend the person's life? What answer do you expect for this question? I do believe that everybody knows about the story of how Shiva saved a little boy when Yama came and the boy went and hugged the Shivalinga. That boy later grew up to be a very great sage. Correct? So, Shiva is already famous for his ability to extend the life of people who are about to die. He is supposed to be famous for people who are facing death. Hence, the famous Mrityunjaya prayers are performed towards Shiva. Correct? We see it widespread in India. But listen carefully. Shiva tells the Alvar, no, I cannot change the time of death of anybody. This is because For me to change the time of death of anybody, there should be sufficient good karma done by that person. What does that mean? What does that mean? Hmm? Shiva means to say that Markandeya, when he was a child, Markandeya had done good karma, which made him deserving of living longer. What past good karma he had committed, we do not know. But that past good karma, whatever it was, it led him to think about Shiva somehow or the other. In his current life, some incident is happening. But his past life and his past karma enabled him to get bhakti in Shiva. And he is going and praying to Shiva. And that act counted as enough good karma to help him to live longer. This is the complete explanation. We should remember that. If an ordinary man is approached by death, and if he shouts, "Oh Shiva, please save me," will Shiva come and save? It depends on the qualification. So Shiva says, birth and death, they are all decided by karma. If you are qualified as per karma, then I can come and help you. If you are not qualified, then I cannot help you. So the Alvar says, okay, you are not able to do even that. Do one thing. You see this? I have a needle and I have a thread. Hmm? Can you put this inside that? Now Shiva was annoyed, or rather pretended to be annoyed. This is to be taken as a Leela. But here, Shiva feels that first he asked about moksha. We said, okay, it is given by Narayana. Then he asked about death. We said, no, it depends on karma. But now he is going to an extreme step and is insulting. So Shiva got angry and opened his third eye. But guess what happened? The Alvar also opened a third eye. The Alvar opened a third eye from the toe of his foot. And this fire was much hotter. It was hot and it also started spreading everywhere. And it was so hot that Shiva could not bear it. Shiva immediately stopped. What did he stop? Shiva stopped both the fires. But how did Shiva stop both the fires? Shiva stopped both the fires by praying to Vishnu, who was his Antaryami. Now Shiva has this ability. He has used it multiple times. The scriptures everywhere, they talk about some traits as common between Shiva and Vishnu. But when we look at a specific trait called Antaryamitvam, the nature of being inside everybody, there the scriptures always refer to Vishnu. So Vishnu having Antaryamitva, being inside everybody, Antarbahishchatat sarvam, as it is said. So there is a Vishnu inside of Shiva also. You might not be aware of it. I might not be aware of it. But Shiva is aware of it. Shiva is aware of it. And Shiva invokes Vishnu from time to time. When destroying the Tripura Vimana, Vishnu was invoked as a weapon by Shiva. The weapon that Shiva used to destroy the Vimana was Vishnu. Sometimes Vishnu as the Antaryami has also been invoked. Like when during the Kiratarjuniyam episode when Arjuna prayed to Shiva and Shiva came in the form of a hunter just to test Arjuna. And there was an Asura who was trying to kill Arjuna. But that Asura was killed. And then Arjuna said, I killed him. Shiva, who is in disguise, he said, I killed him. You did not kill him. Who are you? Arjuna is like, I am the greatest archer in the world. Who are you? So, to make Arjuna humble, Shiva played this game. And what happened in this story? Arjuna and Shiva started fighting. Eventually, it is said, Shiva was hit by Arjuna. But when Arjuna hit Shiva, it pained everywhere. Everywhere as in what? Arjuna hits Shiva, but it pains for Arjuna. It also pains for Yudhishthira and other people, all other people in the world. Likewise, if you look at the Tamil scriptures, the Tamil Shaiva scriptures, there is another story. There is a story where Shiva takes the form of a small boy and plays a Leela. There also, when he is hit, everybody feels the pain. That story is also famous in Tamil Nadu. So what does he do there? Shiva invokes his Antaryami Vishnu. And when he invokes his Antaryami Vishnu, Vishnu is the Antaryami of not only Shiva but of everybody. Antaryami means indweller. He who dwells inside. So Vishnu, as Vishnu is inside everybody and Vishnu is invoked, we can say that whatever he is invoked for is applicable to everywhere, to all the places of the world. So in this manner, Shiva invoked Vishnu by praying to Vishnu. Shiva prayed to Vishnu. And Shiva said, Oh Vishnu, please stop this fire. Only you can stop this fire. You are the Antaryami of that fire also. So please stop this fire. Vishnu stopped the fire. Then a lot of water came and doused the fire's effect also. Then Shiva started explaining the incident to Parvati Devi. He said, whatever happened now happened for the purpose of glorification, as a reminder to people that Bhagavatas have to be glorified. In the past, there is this sage Durvasa. Sage Durvasa was defeated by Ambarisha. Oh Parvati, do you remember what happened at that time? Durvasa, who was born with all the anger of Shiva, he was naturally a very angry person. And out of anger, he used to curse people. Now, Durvasa was also a very smart person. He had taken a boon from Shiva that whenever he curses a person, instead of his tapobala decreasing, generally tapobala decreases when you curse a person. So, when Jamadagni cursed that his wife should be killed, this should happen, that should happen, his anger made him blind. Afterwards, what happened? After his anger made him blind, he started giving boons to his son, Parashurama. Parashurama, by smartly asking for the lives of his mother and brothers back, pleased his father and calmed him down. So out of great happiness, Jamadagni wanted to give boons to his son. He asked for a boon. Parashurama said, revive my brothers, revive my mother. So first mother, then brothers, 2 boons have been given already. Ask for one more boon, he said. Parashurama said, you and mother should always be united. I don't want you to be separated. So may this be a boon that you will always be united at all points of time. Jamadagni said, granted. O son, you have not yet asked for any boon for yourself. You are asking for your brothers, you are asking for your mother, you are asking for me and your mother. What about you? Parashurama said, whenever I fight on the side of dharma, victory should be mine. Therefore, Parashurama is ever victorious. Whenever I fight on the side of dharma, victory should be mine. Jamadagni said, okay, that is also granted. But I still want to give you one more boon. At that point, Jamadagni was unable to give. He ran out of Tapobala. Why? Because by giving boons, Tapobala decreased. If you give boon or the opposite of a boon, which is a curse, Shrapa, what happens? Be it a Varadana or be it a Shrapa, the Tapobala of the giver decreases. But Durvasa had got a boon in the opposite manner. He intentionally got a boon that made him to increase his Tapobala every time he cursed a person. Therefore, Durvasa grew more and more powerful, and he could go about happily cursing people. You take the stories of Durvasa, wherever he goes, he will only curse people. Either he will curse people or he will try to curse people. Durvasa tried to curse Pandavas. Likewise, in the story of Ambarisha, Durvasa tried to curse Ambarisha. But what happened? Ambarisha was a pure devotee of Bhagavan. Thus, the Sudarshana Chakra of Bhagavan that was being prayed to by him at his residence, that Sudarshana Chakra started chasing Durvasa. Durvasa had to run. He did not know what to do. Eventually, he surrendered, and Ambarisha obviously forgave him, and Bhagavan also forgave him. So, Shiva tells Parvati, he says, oh Parvati, do you remember the story of Ambarisha and Durvasa? The story of Bhagavatapachara coming and hurting us in various ways is what needs to be learned from here. In reality, asking about the thread in the needle, can you put this thread into this needle? Whatever Alvar asked that way, the what do you call it? The weaving needle. The Alvar's question was not really an insult. The Alvar was himself focused on praying to Bhagavan. But I went and interrupted him. Who has interrupted the Alvar? Shiva has interrupted the Alvar. So, what has happened? I have interrupted the Alvar. He was in bhakti. I tried to mislead him. What did I do? He was praying to Bhagavan. He was desireless. I tried to test. I tried to give him desires. I said, I will give you whatever you want, ask for it. The Alvar passed the test. So, the Alvar, being far away from us and not wanting any boon and not wanting to focus anywhere else, just because he has seen me, if he is not asking for any powerful weapon or anything. He is not asking for any boon. He says, I don't want anything. So, such a person is not really committing a crime. It might appear that he has insulted me, but he has not insulted me. On the contrary, when I try to burn him with my fire, that is an attempt to harm a Bhagavata. And therefore, any attempt to harm a Bhagavata will have its serious consequences. Therefore, when I used fire the fire from the toe of the Alvar came with much greater power, implying that Bhagavatapachara is the greatest apachara, implying that if you insult a Bhagavata, then nobody can save you, not even Bhagavan. That is the implication. So, Shiva teaches this to Parvati. Shiva already knows the story of Durvasa. That is why he is citing it. He says the story of this Alvar is also like that. This Alvar is not to be taken lightly. He is like the great Ambarisha during the days of Krishna. Now, we will move on to some of the teachings of Tirumalizai Alvar. One fundamental teaching that we should remember is that creation, as we know, correct? We talked about Pratyaksha, Anumana, and so on. When we look at the world, what happens? Fruit falls from the tree. The fruit decomposes. The seed goes to the ground. Rainwater or maybe groundwater feeds the seed. Then the seed grows into a sprout. The sprout grows into a tree. Or man and woman marry each other. Then they get a child. Where is the child born? Inside the mother's womb. How does it come out? It comes out of the mother's womb. It is taken out by those who are performing that surgery. Oh, okay. All of that is done. But do you really think that creation is something that happens so easily in nature? Is there anything, any part of creation that is actually not explainable by logical reasoning? Yes. There are things that are inferable, but not establishable. Inferable means we can infer that there is something. We can understand that there is something. But can you prove that this is how it is happening, that is how it is happening? No. What are we talking about? We are talking about life. So what is life? We call something as living when in an inanimate, that is non-living body, an Atma resides, and that Atma is able to exercise control over the body. What is a living thing? If the Atma leaves, am I audible? If by chance I am not audible, please let me know.
No, yes, you are audible.
Okay, okay. I just got a notification saying the internet is unstable, hence I asked. So, if the Atma leaves the body, it is not, the body is non-living. But when the Atma is inside the body, this combination, the Atma residing inside a body and controlling it, together, what do we call it? We say this is a living thing. So plant is a living thing, animal is a living thing, human is a living thing. We say that way. So it is in reality the Atma that is involved in the creation of all living things. How is this Atma entering the body? It is by the will of Bhagavan. Okay, what about things that are not controlled by Atman? Let us say there is a stone. What about a stone? A stone is non-living. Even the stone inside which Ahalya was there was non-living only. Ahalya's Atma is there, but does it have control over the stone? Can she move the stone? Can she talk using the stone? Can she breathe using the stone? No, nothing. As a matter of fact, She couldn't even think. Even to think, you need a brain, correct? Or some equivalent of it. So, stone is non-living. And there are lots and lots of non-living items, right, in the universe. They also came only from Bhagavan. So, it is by Bhagavan's will that all living things exist. And it is by Bhagavan's will that all non-living things also exist. Creation was started by Bhagavan. It was not started by anybody else. And this creation is happening so fast. Today, it is happening so fast, right? Look at India as an example. How much the population has grown in the last 50 years, we all know. Today, we are the most populated country in the world. So much growth is there. What do we say? We say creation is happening because parents. No. In reality, the reason is that Bhagavan is enabling it to happen. So, the well spread out creation, Deva, Tiryak, Manushya, Sthavara, Jangama, whichever kind of living being you look at, you are going to see that it is Bhagavan who is the cause of creation. And this Bhagavan is the controller of all beings, as he is the creator and he is the controller of creation also. Okay, that much has been covered. Are there more things that the Advar has said? Yes, he has said more things. Naturally, when Bhagavan is the one who creates, he is also the one who preserves and destroys. That is why we use the word controlled. So, creation, preservation, destruction, they are all controlled by not different entities.
Now audio is gone.
Preservation and creation, preservation and destruction are all carried out by the same being only in reality. And this can be logically established. So the Muslims, for example, they ask, how is it possible for you to have a separate creator, separate preserver, separate destroyer? If you have two different paramatmas, then will you not have a fighting superiority, inferiority between them? What if one decides to do one thing and another decides to do something else? Those kinds of questions are presented. We say that no, in Sanatana Dharma also there is only one Paramatma. There is only one Almighty Being. That Almighty Being is only the creator, preserver, and destroyer. And then, how do you identify that Almighty Being? Let us go to the famous verse. This is a very famous verse composed by the Advar. Nanmuganai Narayanan Padaitan. This Tamil verse, what does it mean? Nanmugan means one who has four heads. Mukha refers to head here. And Nanmugan means one who has four heads. He who has four heads. It is a Bahuvrihi. Samastapada. Chaturmukha. That is what is coming as Nan-Mugan in Tamil. Nan-Muganai Narayanan Padaithan. Padaithan means created. Narayana created Brahma. Correct? What does the Veda say? The Veda says, Prajapatischarati garbhe antah. From the garbha of Bhagavan, Vishnu, there is a Kamala, there is a Nabhi Kamala, a lotus that springs from the navel of Vishnu. It is on this lotus, it is inside this lotus that Brahma was created. So, it is said, not only in the Vedas, naturally if the Vedas say it, it would be said by the other scriptures also. Hence, what do the other scriptures say? They say, Narayanat Brahma Jayate. They say, Adyo Narayano Devaha Tasmat Brahma. From him, from that Narayana Deva, who is the Adi Deva, Adyo Narayano Deva. Tasmat Brahma. Therefore, Vishnu created Brahma. Then, what does the shloka say? Adyo Narayano Devaha Tasmat Brahma Tato Bhavaha. So, from him came Brahma, and then Brahma got a son. As per Vishnu Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam, even inside the Vedas, they say there is, I don't know where it is said, but I have heard people saying that there is a place where it shows that Shiva is a son of Brahma. Then if you ask the Advaiti, how do you treat Shiva as supreme? They will say, no, we look at Shiva Purana and other Puranas also, and we take Kalpa Bheda. By using Kalpa Bheda, we say that there are different times when different kinds of relationships happened. Now, this Kalpa Bheda argument is accepted by us also. I don't know if I have talked about Kalpa Bheda concept before. So, in different Kalpas, things happen slightly differently. Events repeat, but with differences. So, elsewhere in some other scripture, it is said that Brahma was the brother of Shiva. And this verse is not a later addition or anything. Vedanta Deshika has cited it. So, there are places in scripture where it says Brahma was the brother of Shiva. But there are other places of scripture that say that Brahma is the father of Shiva. How is this possible? At different points of time. At one point of time, Brahma was Shiva's brother. In some other kalpa, they took a different relationship as brothers. That is how we are to understand this. So, Nanmukanum, Tanmukamai, Shankaranaitan Padaitan. Brahma created Shiva, created as in Shiva became his son. You cannot create an Atma, of course, but you can create a body. So, Shiva, as he is known, is the son of Brahma. He is Brahmaputra. Brahma, we should say. Brahma's Putra. How is he Brahmaputra? Because the scriptures have said, Tasmat Brahma Tato Bhava. And there are multiple places in scriptures where it is discussed in this manner about Brahma and Shiva. So that is being reminded to us by the Alvar. So the Alvar says, Nanmukanai Narayanan Praitan, Nanmukanam, Tanmukamai, Shankaranai Tan Padaitan. Narayana created the four-headed Brahma. Four-headed Brahma. Do you know Brahma had only 4 heads in the beginnings. In the beginning, he later created a 5th head for himself out of a feeling of jealousy towards Shiva. That 5th head is what Shiva cut. We see that in the Puranas. But that 5th head was not originally there with Brahma at the first place. Brahma was originally Chaturmukha only. He originally had only 4 heads. So, as it is said, Rudram Samashrita Deva, Rudro Brahmanam Ashritaha, Rudro Brahmanam Ashritaha. Likewise, there are shlokas that say that Shiva is the son of Brahma. What does that make Shiva to Vishnu? Brahma is the son of Vishnu as he comes through Nabhi Kamala. And Shiva is the son of Brahma. That would make Shiva the grandson of Vishnu. That is what is explained by this famous verse. Okay, I think it is past 8 already. So let us conclude the class here. If there is any doubt, please feel free to ask.
No, there is no doubt, and it was very well explained, and there is so much to learn. It was very nice of you.
Okay, thank you.
ரொம்ப நன்னாவே தான் இருந்தது and ரொம்ப இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்கா இருந்தது. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So let us conclude the class. Srivatsavam Shaklashodhadi Kaustubhasya Shrivasaraghava Gurostanayam Tatascha Vidyavapya Vibudhottamatam Dadhanam Kurve Sada Hrudi Gurum Karunakarakyam Lakshminatha Samarambham Natha Madhyamamasnacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Bhutam Sarasya Mahadahvaya Bhattanatha Shri Bhakti Sara Kulashekara Yogi Vahan Bhaktan Dhirenu Parakala Yatindra Mishran Srimad Parankushamunim Pranatosmi Nityam. Thank you for attending.